success can be pinpointed to four really pretty simple principles. And Joe and his colleagues have been very good to work with. I tell people, I said, you know, I'm only just a little animal science major from the beloved Texas A&M. But I get it when it comes to the concept of how to govern. Governing is not deeply complex. Rule number one is don't spend all of the money. and Joe talked about that. We said, you know, we didn't spend all the money over the course of the last decade. We're sitting there with $8+ billion in a rainy day fund. I mean, I'm thinking Arnold Schwarzenegger would love to have a rainy day fund, or the governor of Michigan, or Pennsylvania, or New York, or Florida. I mean, second principle is to have a tax or regulatory policy that is fair and predictable. Caterpillar didn't shut down their 2 engine manufacturing plants in other highly unionized states and move them to Seguin, Texas, because there's any question about whether or not they're going to pull the regulatory rug out from under us sometime out in the future. They're sure that we have fair and predictable regulations in place. The third principle is to have a legal system that does not allow for oversuing. You all were asked to approve a constitutional amendment in 2003 that put the most sweeping tort reform in the nation in place. It is paying off in billions of dollars worth of economic progress in the state today. And the fourth principle of government is to fund appropriately accountable public schools, so that when those companies that look to Texas, whether it's a medical technology company like Medtronics, who just opened up they moved 1,400 jobs out of the Bay Area in California. These are $65,000 a year average salary, and moved them to San Antonio, Texas last year. If there was great concern about are they going to have the skilled workforce in Texas, they would never have come. That's the principles. Tax and regulatory policy that is fair, predictable, a legal system that doesn't allow for oversuing, and a regulatory and a skilled workforce. Those are the four things. Then get out of the way, government. Let the private sector do what the private sector does best, which is create those jobs, which in turn creates the wealth. It's really pretty simple. I told him, I said it would be a small book. Those are the building blocks that we have put in place in Texas. Joe, I'm going to tell you, thank you for being a leader in that, protecting those principles. Finding the courage to do it. You know, I tell people, I said, if it's so easy, why isn't it that way all across the country? You know, why is California on the verge of bankruptcy? New York and Michigan, who's in terrible economic condition. And the answer is really pretty simple to that. Joe, it's hard to find people who have the courage, day in and day out, to say no to special interest groups. It will not make you the most popular person in Austin, Texas, will it, Joe? But we didn't sign up to be popular. We signed up to do what was right, and to make hard and tough and appropriate decisions for this state. And we have done that. As Americans, I wish other states would adopt our principles. But I might add, as a Texan, I do enjoy going to those other states and getting businesses to move from there to come to the state of Texas. But that's what the 10th Amendment really ought to be about. Is Washington let us compete out here. In states that fail, that put bad policies into place, their people will pick up and move to those states, and they will be forced to make decisions in their state, although difficult and tough. But if they're going to compete in the future, that is the way that it should be. You know, I know Washington prefers the concept that, you know, takes thousands of pages to describe, but they need to realize that doing too much too often causes more problems than not. And although reform is needed in the financial sector, it should target those elements that got us into this mess and not punish community banks by gathering them all under one big regulatory umbrella. That fight for appropriate reform is not going to be an easy one. But I sense that we all share a fundamental belief in the durability of our nation and a respect for the essential role that freedom has played in the success of our country. So let's continue our hard work and stay focused on the incredible strengths of our state and our country. And one thing I do know that is immutable: we live in the greatest state in the nation to raise a family, have a business, and to call home. God bless you and through you. May God continue to bless you.